Wallace Jenkins, born and raised on the planet Harvest, was set to have anything but a normal life. From the simple civilian way of living to the hard-pressed militaristic life, he had already been set up to be a relatable character. In short, he was just a normal guy wanting to do the right thing. But fate doesn't care if you are a good person, and evil stops for no one. Born the eldest of 3 children, Jenkins always felt like he had to set an example and make the most of his own abilities. This is when he left his normal life and decided to join up with the Harvest Militia. Here he served under none other than Sergeant Avery Johnson. Johnson was always giving Jenkins more than a tough time, but it was always in hopes of bettering Wallace so that when shit hit the fan in battle, he would be ready. Throughout the training period of Jenkins' career, multiple situations occurred, which eventually earned Jenkins the trust of his fellow militiamen and Johnson himself. Then, it happened. The Covenant had come to end humanity on Harvest, and Jenkins was dead smack in the middle of the battle. This was a rough time for Jenkins, as his entire family died during the attack. Everyone but him. Fueled by his immense emotions from this, Jenkins took it into his own hands to utilize his excellent marksman skills to get back at the Coveys. Somehow, Jenkins and many of the other militiamen under Johnson survived the attack on Harvest, and were offered the chance to become full-on UNSC Marines and take the fight to the Covenant. For the next couple decades, Jenkins remained close with Johnson and was always one of his most trusted men in battle. During the fall of the planet Reach, Jenkins was right back in the center of the focus. Him and Johnson were done for, dead, but thankfully Master Chief was able to find the lost soldiers and save them from the attacking jackals. After destroying a UNSC Prowler's navigational systems, the group then boarded the UNSC Pillar of Autumn. Little did they know what was in store for them next. When the Autumn was forced to crash land on Installation 04, Jenkins and Johnson both escaped on the same escape pod, and soon were on the surface of the Halo Ring. After fighting off a few Covenant soldiers, the group of soldiers met up with Master Chief and returned to the newly set up UNSC makeshift base. Soon after, Jenkins with some others including Johnson and Captain Jacob Keyes ventured to what they thought was a Covenant weapons cache. They couldn't have been more wrong. This Forerunner facility they came up on was none other than the Flood Containment Facility on the Ring. Talk about bad luck, right? This is where Jenkins and the group came under attack from a swarm of Flood. In this moment, fear was the only thing that Jenkins could comprehend. None of them had ever seen such a disgusting and deadly monstrosity as that of the Flood. Jenkins then panicked, and at that moment his life as he knew it was lost. Other than Johnson, everyone was infected by the Flood, but Jenkins' death wasn't so simple. This is where the true horror of the Flood consumed Jenkins, but not quickly, no. Jenkins was infected by a weaker Flood infection form, so it was unable to fully take over his mind and body, or at least not instantly like with most cases. Instead, he was left alive and very much conscious as the Flood took control of his body and began to brutally mutilate him. He could occasionally regain some control of his actions when the infection form let off a little bit, but most of the time he was left just watching the Flood control his actions. Imagine having your mind still intact as your limbs explode and crumble, your head and spine get contorted and ripped from place. Your insides spread all out in front of you. This is the fate that Wallace Jenkins had. The not fully infected Jenkins then followed some other Flood forms to the surface of the Halo Ring, where some ODSTs were waiting. The Flood attacked, and Jenkins had enough control to try to let himself get killed. His suffering was unbearable, and he wanted it all to just end. But it did not happen like that. He was captured by the Helljumpers and brought back for interrogation, or better put, research. While being interrogated, the flood form within Jenkins was not happy and tried to attack the interrogators by extending a tentacle through Jenkins' hand, ripping the veins and snapping his bones. The pain was so extreme it somehow weakened the infection form enough to give Jenkins enough control to try and warn the humans of the flood approaching. With a subtle yet agonizing hand gesture, Jenkins pointed towards the ground in hopes that the humans would understand what he was warning them of, the threat below, more flood. Jenkins was soon after taken to the Covenant ship Truth and Reconciliation, while the UNSC assaulted the ship. Jenkins knew that the UNSC wanted to take the ship back with them to Earth to study, but he also knew that there were countless more flood on that ship that would surely consume Earth. Wallace always wanted to make a difference in the world, Be someone who rises above whatever challenge that was in front of him. And that mentality didn't stop with him knowing he was already dead. In a last attempt to stop the flood from being brought back to Earth, he attempted to destroy a cable that synced the engines with the control room. Were it so easy? He was horrified to know that he failed. He just couldn't do it. His actions were not in vain, though, as a UNSC soldier, Lieutenant McKay, seen what he was attempting to do. McKay understood exactly. The ship crashed back down to the ring's surface, and before it exploded, Jenkins mustered up enough power and courage to simply whisper the words, "Thank you." His agony was over, but his legacy will live on in the Halo lore and in the minds of his almost cult following amongst the fans that he's gained over the past 15 or so years. Rest in peace, Wallace. You will be missed. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed that classic Halo lore on the one and only Jenkins. Now, for being such a tiny and pretty much useless role in the Halo games, Jenkins really got himself a fan following. He's one of the more popular side characters. He's not even a side character. He's like the third ranked character, but he's just, people love him. So I wanted to give him a little respect. So if you guys want more of these classic Halo lores, let me know. Let me know who you want to actually see and hear about, and may just happen. So this has been Jacob. I will see you guys next time. Peace out.